For over 4 decades, Muammar Gaddafi ruled Libya with an iron fist, a controversial figure on the world stage. His eccentricities and autocratic grip defined a nation. In 2011, the Arab Spring's winds reached Libyan shores, heralding his dramatic and violent downfall. Gaddafi seized power in 1969 through a bloodless coup, overthrowing the monarchy. A young, charismatic colonel, he promised a new era of Arab nationalism and socialism. He quickly consolidated control, embarking on a cultural revolution to reshape Libyan society. Libya's vast oil reserves became the bedrock of Gaddafi's power. He nationalized the oil industry, channeling immense wealth to fund his ambitious domestic projects and exert influence on the international stage. This resource became both a blessing and a curse. Gaddafi's support for international terrorism led to severe isolation. The Lockerbie bombing in 1988 resulted in UN sanctions, crippling Libya's economy and turning Gaddafi into a global pariah. His regime became a defiant outcast. After September 11, Gaddafi sought rehabilitation, renouncing terrorism and dismantling his weapons of mass destruction program. Sanctions were lifted, and Libya re-entered the international fold. He sought to secure his dynasty's future through this rapprochement. The year 2011 brought the Arab Spring, a wave of pro-democracy uprisings across the Middle East and North Africa. Tunisia and Egypt saw their long-standing dictators overthrown. The revolutionary fervor spread rapidly, inspiring millions. In February 2011, the protests reached Libya, starting in the eastern city of Benghazi. Initially small, these demonstrations quickly grew, fueled by decades of grievances against Gaddafi's autocratic rule and his regime's corruption. Gaddafi responded with characteristic brutality, unleashing security forces and loyalist militias on the protesters. In a televised address, he vowed to hunt down rats and cockroaches, promising a merciless crackdown to crush the rebellion. The violent repression only hardened the resolve of the demonstrators, many of whom began to arm themselves. What started as protests quickly escalated into a full-blown civil war, dividing the country between regime loyalists and rebel forces. The rebellion gained rapid ground in the eastern part of Libya, with cities like Benghazi falling under their control. The National Transitional Council was formed, seeking international recognition and support for their cause against Gaddafi. Gaddafi's forces regrouped and launched a swift counteroffensive, pushing back the rebels with superior firepower. They recaptured lost territories, demonstrating the regime's military might and determination to crush the uprising. As Gaddafi's forces advanced on Benghazi, the rebel stronghold, fears of a massacre grew. Gaddafi publicly warned he would show no mercy to those who resisted, raising alarms about a humanitarian catastrophe and prompting international outcry. In response to the escalating crisis, the UN Security Council passed Resolution 1973. This landmark resolution authorized a no-fly zone over Libya and all necessary measures to protect civilians, setting the stage for international intervention. On March 19, 2011, NATO forces launched Operation Unified Protector, beginning airstrikes against Gaddafi's air defenses and ground forces. The intervention aimed to enforce the no-fly zone and prevent further attacks on civilians. NATO's air campaign quickly degraded Gaddafi's military capabilities. His tanks, artillery, and command structures were targeted, significantly weakening his ability to project force and allowing rebel advances to resume with renewed vigor. With NATO air support, the rebel forces, now better organized and equipped, began to push westward. They captured key cities, gaining momentum and confidence. International recognition for the National Transitional Council also grew. By August, the rebels launched their final offensive on Tripoli, Gaddafi's stronghold. Years of meticulous planning by his regime to defend the capital were quickly overwhelmed by the coordinated rebel assault and ongoing NATO air cover. On August 21, Tripoli fell. rebel fighters stormed Gaddafi's Bab al-Azizia compound, a symbolic act marking the end of his 42-year rule. Gaddafi himself was nowhere to be found, having fled the capital days earlier. After Tripoli's fall, Gaddafi went into hiding, believed to be moving between loyalist towns. He released audio messages, defiant and calling for resistance, but his grip on power had irrevocably slipped, making him a fugitive. Gaddafi's last stand was in his hometown of Sirte, a loyalist stronghold. Rebel forces, aided by NATO intelligence, laid siege to the city for weeks. The fighting was fierce, reducing much of Sirte to ruins. On October 20, 2011, Gaddafi was captured near Sirte, discovered hiding in a drainage pipe. Injured and disoriented, his capture marked the definitive end of his long and tumultuous reign over Libya, a moment of global significance. The circumstances of Gaddafi's death remain controversial. After his capture, he was subjected to mob violence and died from gunshot wounds. His demise sparked celebrations across Libya, but also raised questions about accountability and justice. Gaddafi's death was met with widespread jubilation in Libya, symbolizing freedom from decades of autocratic rule. However, the immediate aftermath also brought deep uncertainty about the country's future and the path to stability. Gaddafi's fall plunged Libya into prolonged instability and civil conflict. The power vacuum led to the rise of rival factions, militias, and extremist groups. His removal, while desired by many, ultimately fragmented the nation. The fall of Muammar Gaddafi closed a chapter in Libyan history, but opened another fraught with challenges. The echoes of his long rule and violent end continue to shape a nation grappling with its identity and striving for lasting peace.